Indeed, as the year comes to an end, we are privileged to have a conversation, a one-on-one exclusive interview with the Member of Parliament for Keharu constituency. He's also the chairperson of the Budgets and Appropriations Committee in the National Assembly, that is the Honorable Ndindi Nyoro. He has also been ranked for several achievements, especially this year, having been ranked the best performing MP. And we shall be talking a lot about the year that has been and the year that is coming. 2023 is coming to an end, and even as we look at 2024, the second year and counting for especially the Kenya Kwanza government. Thank you, Meshima, for joining us on TV47, and we shall begin by the ranking that came in just a few weeks ago. The ranking that you have been the best performing MP. What did you attribute that for? Because it is coming consecutively several times in a row.
Thank you very much, George and TV47. We are glad nowadays we have a very robust TV station, which most of us as Kenyans are watching. Very objective and precise. I want to first appreciate the ranking that came for the last 4 or so weeks. It got me by surprise because I was in a chat service in Keharu. Then I saw some messages of congratulations. Then upon going to the media, then I saw what it was all about, and I want to appreciate really Kenyans for that kind of ranking, because it is an appreciation of a lot that you have been doing in Keharu and also doing for the entire country. So part of the reason why it came through, number one, I would say, is out of the kind of unity there is in implementation of our NGCDF projects. Those projects, I don't do them as Ndindi Nyoro. We do them with the people of Keharu jointly. And in Keharu, we have a very different model of implementing projects where we focus on amalgamating the synergies of all the people in our society. And I say so because all our projects are implemented by the people of Keharu. There are no contractors from elsewhere. The people of Keharu do them. And what we have been doing, because just in a nutshell, because we've been able to achieve a lot in education sector, for example, tiling all our public primary schools, tiling meaning holistic renovations, adding more structures, starting off new secondary schools, which are 7 in number, and of course much more in the security sector, because NGCDF normally focuses on education and security according to the constitution. So what we have been able to do and how we've been able to do it is that we have been able to capitalize on the labor from the people. Even the kind of skills we didn't have, for example, tiling and professional painting, we took 150 people from Keharu. We took them through a short course of fixing tiles. Also another 150, we took them through a short course of professional painting, so that we are able to capitalize on all the synergies and all the labor from there. Secondly is the structures. I would attribute it to structures, meaning most of the work that I do as MP for Keharu, I also take cognizance of the fact that we are given personnel and resources by Parliament. And what we do is that our staff, we take them through a very rigorous training, so that wherever an MP, a staff from my office is, they are able to make a decision, just like the MP is there. And I do that because they are paid by the people of Keharu, and therefore we try our level best to refine their skills so that they are able to discharge their responsibilities properly. So structures also take a cue on that. And lastly, it is the issue of cost. Most of the projects that we undertake, we do them through a project or through a program we call labor-based. Labor-based meaning, instead of giving the normal contracting that is known, we hold them as community projects, so they're implemented by the community. So basically, no one makes profits out of our projects. All the profit, all the utility goes into the people that we serve.
So do you think that perhaps you will be maintaining that ranking for the next year in counting?
I would want to say that the kind of caliber of MPs we have this period is very robust, and I am happy that we are serving this parliament with very progressive members of parliament, majority of whom we share a lot. We share a lot in terms of benchmarking exercises across other constituencies. Also, many come to Keharu. So we are able to capitalize on on the experiences of each other. I also appreciate the fact that majority of the MPs are really doing their best, and therefore we will also be doing our best to maintain our position. One more thing that I have to say that makes my heart very warm is what we've been able to achieve in terms of secondary schools. We have a project we call Kiharu Masomo Bora, where learners pay just 1,000 shillings in school fees per term, and they also eat in school. And beyond that, in the same program, we are changing the infrastructure of our day schools, so that the child who goes to our day school or a learner who attends our day school will have the same facilities as those who are attending national extra county schools. And we do this basically because we believe every learner has a chance to succeed, and it is our basis, it is our obligation as leaders to make sure that we give them a platform for them to shine. So yes, we hope to maintain our position, but we are also very happy of the challenge we are getting from the other members of parliament who are equally doing a good job.
As we end up with Kiharu Matters, are there perhaps benchmarkings from your colleagues in trying to, because yours sounds like a success story, especially for the people of Kiharu. Are other MPs, even from other areas, far-flung areas, coming to see what you're doing as a model constituency?
Yes, we have been having a lot of benchmarking exercise forums in Kiharu. This year we have hosted maybe more than 45 delegations, meaning 45 members of parliament, who also, when they come to Kiharu, they come with their own delegations. They come with their CDF committees, they come with their co-staff who are charged with the implementation of NGCDF projects. Yes, we have been hosting a lot of delegations, and I'm always available to do so. One, because our first 2 years as a member of parliament, I would say we didn't optimize because we were still in the forest looking for a path. So we are always glad to share the path that we have already identified with other colleagues so that they don't have to get lost like we did in the first 2 years. So we have been holding these benchmarkings, and I was glad when I saw the rankings. Most of the people who actually led their counties, they have been to Kiharu. I am very happy to see people shining out of our experiences, because they don't need to learn through mistakes that as we did, and we have been gladly sharing. We have been sharing gladly our experiences so that Kenya can become better for all of us.
Mheshimiwa Ndindi, had someone told you perhaps 10 years ago that you would be the chairperson, the chairman of Budget and Appropriations Committee, that you'd be a high-ranking member of parliament 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and a close ally of President William Ruto, would you have believed it?
I would say I am a person of faith who believes in things to come also. But I have to say that where we are, I don't think we would have seen it through the human eyes, because we are at places where we used to think are way too high for us. And I also want to send the same message to the many youth of Kenya, that what I have seen so far, and I'm trying to answer that question, is that after all is said and done, we are a sum total of our experiences, the good ones and not too good ones. The reason I'm saying that is because there are people who would be more agile to see themselves at a level where you have mentioned. For some of us, we were too down on the road. From where we are born, my father was a carpenter in Kiadutu, my mother a paisan farmer, just going to normal schools. I went to a school which not many Kenyans would recognize, especially high school, just near our village it used to be called Kiabugi. We had strikes so many times until it was changed to St. Paul's. Maybe Saul to Paul story. The primary school we attended is just normal, Gadukeine, just at our neighborhood. There is no time we could not be chased away because of school fees. That kind of a family. And therefore, it has been a very great journey for us to be where we are. I also want to applaud the kind of people we have been able to interact with, who have had a huge impact to me personally, especially His Excellency the President, Dr. William Ruto. He is a very practical mentor. And let me say this, I don't think I've ever said it elsewhere. The way you see us speaking, for example, in public, some of us were very banal and raw. But over time, I remember during the campaign time, we'd go for campaigns with the president. I would give a speech. I think it's a very good speech. Once we are back, maybe on our way back, then you'd come guiding me. You don't say this, you say it this way, you say it in this manner. And therefore, he's very practical. You know, many times people mentor others through, they just unleash you to go and learn. But the president guides you meticulously. And I am very grateful that he's that kind of a mentor, and the fact that I'm close to him, I've been able to learn a lot in the journey. Yes.
Brilliant. Mheshimiwa, when you look at the docket that you now hold, a very crucial one, especially in the National Assembly and also matters of running the country, how would you perhaps rate yourself in performance as chairman of that docket, owing to the current economic times in the country?
Being a human being, I'm more inclined to rate myself possibly more optimistically. And I think that question is better answered by those people who see what we do other than ourselves, because definitely we fall in the temptation of blowing our trumpet, which is not very good. But I would say this position, we have been able to hold it with the seriousness it deserves. One, I think God prepares people when responsibilities are coming your way, because the fact that I went to school and studied economics has been very helpful to me in terms of the budget making process, because the way we manage our budget is basically managing the economy of Kenya. And how the economy works is that economy is a summation of many things. When you are looking at the income side of the economy, budget is part of it. It accounts for around 25%. Others are private consumption, private investment. There is net exports also. So what we do, therefore, the 25% of the economy or the GDP also has a lot of ramifications in terms of shaping how the other economy now performs. Because budget making process is a policy making process. The monies that we allocate becomes law. That is why we sign the appropriations bill, which becomes an act, meaning it becomes law. So what we've been able to do, we took our country at a point where we really needed to make the right decisions and avoid being populists. Because all over the world, if you check, as a leader, you can choose which direction you want to take. If you want to be popular, it's easy. It's actually very easy. But if you want to make far-reaching decisions to help a country, in the short term, it may not be very popular. But I always think it is important for leaders to be responsible, to make decisions for today as it is important for tomorrow. Why am I saying so? As I answer that question, when President Mwai Kibaki took over in the year 2003, I was actually exiting high school. And we joined university and we could clearly follow the kind of things he was doing. And I remember in the year 2005, when I was joining campus, there was a referendum in Kenya. President Kibaki actually lost that referendum. In 2007, we had an election which was equally, it is actually the stiffest we've ever had as a country. Yet, when we look back now, every Kenyan appreciates President Mwai Kibaki. That appreciation, I want to take you back to what I've stated. 2005, that appreciation wasn't there. 2007, it wasn't there in good measure. That is why he had to really fight for his life to retain the presidency. But was he making the right decisions for Kenya? Yes. we all appreciate as Kenyans that he did a great job. Now, when we took over, the economy of the world has been in a situation that needed a person to make the right decisions. One, and these are, I don't want to say them because they have been overdone so many times, but economies don't change. So it's good to mention the parameters. COVID, internally, the issue of drought, politics, decision-making that had been done previously based on politics of convenience. So we took over when we needed to stabilize our economy in terms of parameters. You know, there is economy of three types. There is the economy of the pocket, there is the economy of parameters, and of course, there is the other economy now, which you measure comparatively with other countries. Now, to cut the long story short, I think we've been able to do a very good job when it comes, number one, to the economy. I forgot, I was to say about the economy of the stomach. And the economy of the stomach is important because many revolutions in the world, including the French Revolution, was purely the economy of the stomach. You remember that time about the bread. So about the economy of the stomach is an issue of food security, generally speaking. I think we've been able to do quite commendable job led by the president. The economy of parameters, surprisingly, Kenya has done exemplary well. Kenya, for the last 2 quarters, in the first quarter, Kenya grew by 5.3%. In the second quarter, Kenya grew, this of 2023, the economy grew by 5.4%. Kenya, for those 2 quarters, has been the 29th fastest growing economy in the world. Inflation-wise, Kenyan inflation now is at 6.8%. Our expectation benchmark is between 2.5 to 7.5%. So we have done a great job in that respect. Why? Comparatively also, compare with, for example, our friends here in Ghana. Ghana's, even when figures are still questionable, the government reported figures is about 50% in terms of inflation. The US economy is facing the highest inflation for many decades back. So if you look at all that, we have done quite a good job. The third one, which there is room for improvement, is the economy of the pocket, where are Kenyans feeding money in the pocket?
That's a very pertinent question that is going on.
So to be honest, there is a lot of work to be done on that sphere. Kenyans must feel money in the pocket for GDP figures to make sense. But what kind of a question is that? It is a question of equality. As the economy grows, to who does it grow? Because yes, the economy is growing. World Bank are reporting, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics is reporting. All world data shows Kenya is the 29th fastest growing economy in the world. But the Kenyans in Nyamakema, the Kenyans in Kodele, Kenyans in Coast, can they feel it? That is why we need to do much more in terms of making sure that the growth that we achieve as an economy grows towards an egalitarian society, grows towards an equal society. And we are doing quite commendable. The last bit, there is a lot we can talk about that, but I also want to talk about the last bit, is the issue of education. We have been able as a country to allocate a lot of money into our education sector. For the time we have been budget chairman, we have been able to allocate, education is actually taking up the lion's share of our budget. This year, close to 700 billion out of the 3.9 trillion budget is going to the education sector. With a lot of reforms they are in, I don't want to delve into it because I think there is shortage of time in this interview.
Mheshimiwa, so you've ballooned the budget by 200 billion Kenya shillings to loan servicing. Were the fluctuations of the currency not planned for when you were setting aside money for settling debts in the current fiscal year?
You know, what is a budget? Budgets are projections. When you make a budget at your home, because we all do, it is usually a projection based on assumptions. One, you'll still be having your job. Two, you'll still be having the same preferences and many other things. So the economy of a country is also based on that. However, we also invoke other tools to try to project. But there is no tool that has been invented across the world that can precisely predict the economic trends. Why? Kenya is just one economy out of the many. The economy, the global economy, is a summation of Kenya and all the other close to 200 countries altogether. So there are things that we could plan with here in Kenya, but other effects could come out or would influence Kenya from outside. So we have added 200 billion to our budget to take care of three things. One is that 145 billion shillings is going into payment of interest rates occasioned by changes in interest rates globally and here internally, but also number two, changes in forex. Why are we doing this and why is this important? Maybe we'll get time to explain about those parameters. But number two also, we revised the budget to be able to add more money to our education sector so that parents can, the government can take its part in supporting parents in JSS capitation coming January. And lastly is the issue of agriculture, where we have been able to put 8.25 billion shillings, one for additional fertilizer subsidy, but also for post-harvest management. All those things are important. We thought they couldn't wait until we make a new budget because seasons don't wait. Education calendar cannot stall for the budget process to come forth. So that is the reason.
Mheshimiwa, then there is the remarks by the claims by the CS for Treasury, Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, who said, the government is not being liquid. So what the question, begs is, where is all the money that is being collected from the taxes that were added through the Finance Act?
There are two things we are doing for Kenya to get out of the hole of borrowing, because you are walking the talk. And I say this because, as I said when I was starting, you have to make a choice as a leader. Whether you want people to clap for you now and then you drown the country, or you steer the country out of the storms. So that is a decision that you have to make. Please repeat again.
So regarding the country not being liquid, the remarks that the CS for Treasury made.
Now, out of the issue of borrowing, because it's the same issue, liquidity-wise, we have been able to increase our revenue-raising measures. And as you see, even in KRA, in terms of their releases, there is an improvement. However, for Kenya to get out of the hole of borrowing, two things have to happen. You have to borrow less and also pay more. Those two things have to go in tandem. In terms of borrowing less, are we borrowing less? I want to take you back for the many years. For the last 10 years, the current budget has the least deficit to GDP ratio. In the year 2014-2015, the Kenyan debt deficit to GDP ratio was 8.7%. The current is 5.4%. Next year, the budget you want to make, or you are projecting to make, will be 4.4%. On the other side also, we are paying our debts in time, retiring them as fast as we could. That is why out of 10 shillings KRA collects, 7 shillings is going to debt-related issues. And that is why there is a constrained liquidity atmosphere around the country. Yeah. Why? Because there are things that you have to do also for sentiments. Even as we want a lot of things to happen in the country in terms of development, the wrong sentiments being sent to the markets, the global markets, will be catastrophic for Kenya. And I don't think we'll be willing to go that route. That is why we have stuck into number one priority of the money we collect. We retire our debts. We pay our interest rates so that we are in the right standing as a country. And that is why Kenya has been able to be very attractive to many other people, because we have shown a lot of prudence in the management of our financial obligations.
So we are headed in the right track, is what you're saying?
We are headed definitely in the right track. However, as we move in that right track, sometimes there are situations, and there have been many, that the driver reminds us that we need to tighten our belts. Why? Because we need to arrive safely to enjoy whatever lies ahead. So I know it has been difficult in terms of the economy of the pocket. I live in Kenya, I know that. But I also want to assure Kenyans the decisions that we have been taking are the best for the country. And I'd want you, Mariga, when you get time, you check how is the other world behaving. And I want to cite just a few. The US, because there is another issue around the economy, maybe it's not budget related, but it's also very pivotal. Why are we raising interest rates, for example? The other day we saw the CPC in Kenya, the Monetary Policy Committee, MPAC, raising the benchmark to 12.5%. Why are we doing it? And is it in sync with what the other world is behaving? One, US, after COVID, inflation ran out of hand. They had to invoke monetary tools. So they have been having a quantitative, constraining the economy in terms of liquidity. They have been constraining their liquidity by raising interest rates. So how does this affect Kenya, and why do Kenya has to behave that way? Now, as the economy of the US, they try to contain their inflation by raising interest rates for 11 times in a row, from barely 0%. A year and a half ago, the US benchmark interest rate set by Fed was from 0 to 0.25%. Currently, after raising it for 11 times, it is now 5.25% to 5.5%. Now, after COVID, the measures that were taken by the US and all the other economies across the world was monetary easing. Monetary easing, you want the economy to feel money because people needed money then because of the ravages of COVID. When there is so much money in the economies, then demand goes up, prices go up. So I want you to check the US, the UK, all the OECD countries. They have been raising gradually their interest rates. Just yesterday, the Bank of Canada, the equivalent of the central bank, also retained their interest rates around 5%, unprecedented, the highest for 20 years. Why is also Kenya doing the same? Now, when you want to manage the currency, you have to also use this monetary tool. How? The issue of the balance of payment is primarily two-sided. One, there is the current account, and then the other side is the capital account, which I would ramp up together with the financial account. The one that records import and exports is the current account. Now, that one, you do it using fiscal issues. You want to spur exports and also make people consume locally made products other than the imported ones. But the most available tool, which must be effective for a government, is the monetary one. Because balance of payment is number one, exports minus imports, but also on the other side, capital outflow minus capital, or capital inflow minus capital outflow. So the reason why interest rates have been going up is number one, as we contain inflation on this side, we are also making Kenya not suffer from capital fright. So that then our shilling remains steady, but on the other side, as we maintain inflation.
So, Mheshimiwa, as you wind up, the year, as you say, has been, tough. You said you are Kenyan, you live in Kenya, and you've seen how the timelines have been. The Kenya Kwanza government said they had a comprehensive fiscal plan that would take not more than, would ensure complete turnaround within a year. That has come to a close, the 2023 year. What do you project, perhaps, from the Kenya Kwanza government side? Are we seeing hope in 2024, even as we say goodbye to 2023?
I am looking at 2024 as a very optimistic Kenyan. One, because I know at least the economic parameters of Kenya are very attractive to the people living in Kenya and also those who would want to invest in Kenya. You are looking at a country where the inflation level is actually below the benchmark or the target. You are looking at a country where the GDP is growing faster than China. You are looking at a country where there is political stability. We are looking at a country where we are now having more food in terms of harvest than we would consume. So all those things put together make a very good story for our country, Kenya. So as we look forward, we need to capitalize on having these economic figures being felt in the pocket of Kenyans. And the best way to do that, one, is to make sure that business is thriving. And the way to make business thrive is to make sure that the tax regime is accommodative of a thriving business atmosphere. But also, number two, having many people join business. Because it is out of many people joining business that then we have much more people getting jobs. It is out of all those advantages that we have much more Kenyans contributing through taxes. And it is out of that that then we borrow less and we are able to steady our country with our own internal resources.
Because the Kenya Kwanza government made several promises, Mheshimiwa. Do you promise that when we have this conversation at such a time next year, the story will be different and will hold you accountable?
We all live in Kenya and every Kenya is accountable, by the way. We are all accountable because every Kenyan takes a part in terms of the growth of our country. Leaders do their part. Business people do their part. Kenyans working across various sectors of our economy do their part. And therefore, I am sure out of the collective responsibility of all of us that definitely 2024 will be a much better year for Kenyans. Thank you very much, George and Joan and the entire team from TV47. And congratulations for relaunching this year. We have seen a lot of improvement in TV47. And I want to really wish all the viewers of TV47 and all Kenyans a Merry Christmas and a blessed year 2024, full of blessings and good health and good tidings. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all Kenyans.
Mheshimiwa, thank you so much for speaking to us. We've been speaking to the chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee in the National Assembly, who is also member of Parliament for Kiharu constituency, that is the Honorable Ndindi Nyoro. My name is George Maringa. Bye-bye for now.